Welcome back everyone to the Bucks County Conservation District's Backyard Vegetable Gardening web series. Last week we chose the perfect fruits, vegetables, and herbs to grow in our backyard garden and how to arrange them. And now it's time to start growing. Today we're going to go over the different ways you can grow vegetables, how to start seeds indoors, and then how to transplant them outdoors. Let's get right into it by starting with the different ways that you can grow vegetables. When growing a garden, you can sow your seeds directly into the ground outdoors, or you can start them inside, and there are benefits to both of these options. Direct sowing is the easiest option that requires no additional equipment. The downside is there might be a lower success rate. At the beginning of the growing season, there are factors like late frost, low sunlight, and pests and diseases, which can prevent seeds from germinating or kill growing seedlings. Despite this, there are a lot of different vegetables that actually prefer to be directly sowed as opposed to transplanted. Things like some root vegetables, leafy greens. These shade and cold tolerant plants also can't tolerate a lot of root damage, which can occur during transplanting, which makes it better for them to be directly sowed into the ground. Starting your seeds indoors gives them the benefit of being in a controlled, stable environment. When they're indoors, you can control things like temperature, moisture, humidity, sunlight, and protect them from pests and diseases. This gives them a much higher germination rate and allows them to grow a lot faster compared to direct sowing outdoors. The downside of this strategy is there is some additional effort and equipment needed. You'll first need some type of container to grow them in, which I'll go over later, as well as a potting medium. And then depending on your climate, you may need a heat lamp to keep them warm and well lit. Most vegetables, besides some leafy greens and root vegetables, do prefer being started indoors and then transplanted outdoors later. So today, that's what I'm going to show you how to do. There are tons of great options on the market for seed starting kits that come in different sizes and different price points. But you really don't need to buy a kit to be successful. There are so many different DIY options out there. There are some really great ones that I've seen that use at-home materials to make compostable containers out of things like toilet paper rolls, newspaper, egg cartons, and cereal boxes. Since they're compostable, you can plant them directly into the ground when the seedlings are ready, which is so awesome. But today, I'm going to show you how I used a kit to start my seedlings about 2 weeks ago. This one has 36 cells and it's a self-watering closed system. It was only $10 and it can be reused every season. The only thing that you need to repurchase is the peat moss pellets. There are 5 main parts to this kit. The 36 cell planting tray with each cell containing a peat moss pellet, a plant stand, a self-watering mat, the watering tray, and the clear greenhouse dome. They also have a diagram of the planting tray so that you can label where each of your seeds are. I put the plant stand in the water tray, laid the self-watering mat on top, and then put on the planting tray and the clear glass dome to assemble. Now, to plant your seeds, you need to wet the peat moss pellets with warm water and allow them to fully expand. It may take a few cycles of watering and waiting until they're completely wet and fill up the entire cell. Then you can just break up the peat moss in each cell and level out the top. Next, you want to use a pen or just your finger to poke a hole in each cell for the seed to go into. Before you plant, you definitely want to make sure you label some type of diagram so that you know which seeds are in which cells. So when they're seedlings, you know which are which when you plant them into your garden. Make sure you also note the direction that the container is facing, utilizing labeling on the container and the paper so that you don't get the direction mixed up later. You can plant 1 or 2 seeds in each cell. I decided to plant 2 in each since sometimes seeds just don't germinate or things happen that cause plants to die. And you can always give away extra seedlings. So for me, that's what I decided to do, but you can definitely just do 1 if you prefer. And then with clean, dry hands, you want to get the seedlings out of their packet, place them in the hole, and cover completely. Try and keep the packet as clean and dry as possible so that the remaining seeds will still be good for next year. Go through and plant all of your seeds in each cell of the tray. Once you're done, make sure you seal your packets to keep them nice and dry for next season. Lastly, you just want to cover the kit with a clear dome and place it in an area that receives plenty of direct sunlight. You want to check on your seedlings every day if you can, making sure that the medium is moist but not too wet. And then if you're using a self-watering system such as this one, you want to make sure there's enough water down in the watering tray. You can also rotate the container so that all your seedlings receive equal light and they don't just grow in one direction towards the window. Each seed will germinate at different speeds. As you can see from these photos, some of mine germinated and sprouted extremely quickly. My fastest growers were spinach, arugula, cucumbers, and sugar snap peas, while my tomatoes, red onions, and bell peppers took a little bit longer. Since some are growing especially quick, I had to repot them, specifically my cucumbers, after a week and a half because they were getting way too tall for the dome. I just put them in this terracotta pot that I have, make sure it has a drainage hole at the bottom, and then I covered it with just a Tupperware container to trap in the moisture. You have to be extra careful when transplanting, which I definitely could have done better at. As you can see here, I snapped 2 of the cucumber stems on accident. They're extremely fragile when they're seedlings, so this is really common. So that's why it's important to plant an extra couple seeds for accidents such as this one. I also have some purple sweet potato starters, which my grandmother made about 7 weeks ago. Potatoes are really awesome because you can remove each of the eyes on a single potato, put it in water, and over time it'll grow roots and shoots and develop into a whole new potato producing plant. Here you can see each of the cuttings she did have really great root development and lots of shoots and leaves. They definitely could have gone into the ground a few weeks ago, but I wanted to show you all what they look like before I planted them. So that's the plant that I'm going to show you how to transplant today. Before you transplant your seedlings outdoors, you need to harden them off to get them more prepared for outside conditions. Since they've been growing in the ideal environment, they would not be prepared enough to survive the wind and the cold outside. The first step in doing this is simply removing any type of dome you have over your seedlings that was used to trap in the moisture. After a few days without this dome, you can place them outside in an area with indirect sunlight, just for a couple hours a day, making sure to bring them in at night. Then you can increase the amount of time that they're outside every day until eventually they can spend a full day and night outside. After that, you can move them to an area with direct sunlight, spending a couple full days and nights there, and by that time, your seedlings will be ready to transplant outside, well prepared to face the world. This whole process should take about 1 to 2 weeks, depending on your seedlings. If you can see that they're visibly struggling, just bring them outside more. Wait until they're more well adjusted. You don't want to rush them and kill off your seedlings on accident. Once they're ready to find their final home in your garden, you want to be extra careful handling them to prevent any root damage. For fragile growing seedlings, this can be fatal. So bring your kit outside to your garden, dig out all of the holes first, adequately spaced for all your plants. Remove the entire plant with some medium surrounding the roots. Gently place it into the hole and pat in the soil around it to make sure it's secure. Then you want to make sure you give it a really good heavy watering. I didn't do that here because it was going to rain in a few hours, which was pretty convenient. You can also give your seedlings a little boost by fertilizing them when you transplant. I have this organic Miracle-Gro fertilizer that was only $15 for a 2.5 pound container. This is a dry fertilizer, which needs to be spread evenly across your bed and worked into the soil, followed by a really decent watering. Now you should have successfully started your seeds indoors, hardened them off, and transplanted them outside in your garden. Some failures are inevitable. Some seeds just won't germinate or seedlings will die. Just don't be discouraged. After a few days, your seedlings will be completely established in your garden and producing fruit in no time. Next week, we're gonna go over some important garden maintenance And there will also be an extra video on building your own cheap and easy garden trellises. Thank you so much for watching, and I can't wait to see you in the next one.